Colleagues, good afternoon. Today we will begin a series of traditional special working meetings, during which we will analyze the key parameters of the next state arms program. Its implementation period is from 2027 to 2036. At this time, it will be the main guideline for the development of the arms system for the entire military organization of the country. That is, for our armed forces, other troops and military units in special services and departments. It is the most important tool for the formation of their new quality in the fourth decade of the 21st century. Let me remind you that in April this year we discussed how to increase the volume of supplies and increase the effectiveness of the use of arms and equipment to solve the tasks of a special military operation. The measures that were planned then are being implemented. However, these measures are, in fact, operational and are being implemented in the shortest possible time, which is called here and now, in real time, based on the current needs. Today, our task is to form a new, long-term program for the entire system and samples of arms, including, of course, the most promising ones. The maximum use of the experience of special military operations, various regional conflicts, and of course, it is important to take into account the global trends in the development of military technologies, especially since the number of countries that are actively working in this direction is growing. This reflects the objective processes of the formation of new centers of technological, scientific, and industrial development in the multipolar world. I would like to stress that the state program must include sufficient volumes and nomenclature of arms and equipment to meet the current and promising needs. In order to do this, it must be tied to the terms and measures of the Russian defense and industrial complex program. It is obvious that the focus of the new state program should be on the creation of the most modern systems of arms. When I spoke about the development of the defense and industrial complex, I immediately recalled that we took the necessary steps in due time in order to now be at the same level, yes, with the well-known issues and problems, but still at the same level as we are now. That is, we took the necessary steps in due time. I do not know when it was, about 10 years ago, right? In 2008, 2009, and 2010, decisions were made to develop the defense and industrial complex. Special funds were allocated specifically for this purpose, for the development of the defense and industrial complex. This gives us the opportunity to produce the necessary volume of arms and equipment today. Of course, special attention should be paid to the nuclear triad, which has been and remains a guarantor of Russia's sovereignty and plays a key role in ensuring the balance of power in the world. Today, the share of modern arms and equipment in the strategic nuclear forces is already 95%. This is a good indicator, but in fact it is the highest in all the nuclear powers in the world. The highest indicator. In terms of the experience of special military operations, the aviation of the armed space forces is making a significant contribution to the destruction of enemy objects. Therefore, a comprehensive system of systematic and consistent measures to create procurement for the needs of the Russian armed forces, modernization and repair of aircraft and aviation equipment must be provided. At the same time, land forces dominate the forces in carrying out modern military operations on any scale and intensity. And it is important to increase their combat capabilities as soon as possible, to create a strong base for development, to ensure the development of promising samples and systems of weapons that have the highest tactical and technical characteristics and modernization resources. And, of course, the new state arms program should become an effective tool for implementing the recently approved strategy for the development of the Navy by 2050. It is also necessary to increase the export potential of Russian arms and equipment, especially those samples that have been tested not at the training ground, but in real combat actions of high intensity and have confirmed their reliability and effectiveness. At the same time, what is important for buyers is that they are competitive in terms of cost and maintenance costs. It is only important to provide proper maintenance and the corresponding price parameters. In general, this is normal for you. But as for the organization of the maintenance itself, spare parts and so on, I do not know what it is. We still need to work on this. Recently, on May 23rd, at the meeting of the Commission on Military Technical Cooperation, we all looked at these issues closely and decided to develop and launch, as part of the OPC development program, a separate direction to ensure the production of export military products. This must also be taken into account in the new state arms program. I will repeat once again. Of course, it must set guidelines for the formation of long-term production plans of the OPC organization. In recent years, with the support of the state, defense enterprises have increased their production volumes many times. This potential needs to be used wisely. We need to build a well-thought-out personnel policy, and the Ministry of Industry and Trade and the Ministry of Defense need to see the future and think about how to ensure the loading of enterprises with the production of civilian products when necessary. We have been doing this for a long time, for at least 10 years. In general, the situation is in the right parameters. But taking into account the current needs of the armed forces, there is certainly a certain delay. Nevertheless, we need to think about this. And it is absolutely necessary not just to think, but to build plans. I mean specific plans for the diversification of production, which we have spoken about more than once. As I have already said, the experience of working in this area is sufficient. And, of course, the events of the state program must be clearly coordinated with the plans for the defense and construction of the armed forces, with the mobilization plans for the economy, and with other documents for strategic planning. Finally, the last thing I would like to note. It is important to calculate the needs in a timely manner and start preparing the infrastructure for the placement of new arms systems, including bases, arsenals, airfields, and so on. The financial resources necessary for the construction and modernization of such facilities must be secured in a separate line in the program. I know and sign these documents all the time. When they come, they do not come from a good life, of course, and they ask to transfer these expenses to other, more important, it would seem, articles. But what does this lead to? Because new arms systems appear, and then they become in the clean field and require a faster modernization and additional expenses. Let us begin.